Hi, this is János, it's Real World Audio, and I'm really glad that there's so much discussion going on about the cabinet building that my little loudspeaker project inspired, talking about cabinet materials, how to put it together, and finishing methods. And now I just want to do an overarching summary of it and just share my thoughts on the entirety of it, because it seems that there's more comments than I had time to write and follow up properly. So now I'm doing a follow up through this video, and I hope it will be really useful for all of you. And so basically, what I am sharing through these videos is my experiences, what has worked for me in the past, and what has gotten me good results, and what has lasted me a long time. So that might be different for you. And how so? Well, we went through quite a bit of things in the videos and in the comments. But what I want to focus on right now is one of those things that if you use, like for example, in your screw, like the screws it themselves, brass screws or bronze screws, and how you torque them, what is the exact torque strength, can you at all torque them to the exact same Newton meter or foot-pound strength. It is highly questionable because of the material of the wood probably will not allow you to torque them to the same torque, because if you torque them to the exact same torque, some will stick out and others will go through and damage the wood, because the density is not exactly the same everywhere, unless you get some really extremely high quality wood, but then that's quite unlikely, especially nowadays. That the wood quality we can purchase at the stores is quite a bit lower than what used to be 2 years or 3 years ago. And also Nick was asking me what's the torque that I was using. I just have my screwdriver and it has a torque setting on it. It doesn't have any intelligible scale on it, and even if it has numbers, it's totally irrelevant because it changes depending on the charge state of the battery. So for example, you set it to some torque, you drill in 100 screws, and then like 2 days later you want to drill in a couple more, they will be totally different torque. The only commonality with that screwdriver is that if you set it to certain torque and you put in 10 screws, like 12 screws what I did, they will be roughly the same torque, because during the span of 12 screws the battery doesn't drain enough to significantly change the torque of the screwdriver. But giving you a number, it's totally meaningless, because these home tools, their torque settings change based on even if you change like 1 amp battery or 4 amp battery, if it's full, it will have a very different torque to it with the same device. And if you use like different brands like Makita or Ryobi or Milwaukee, again it will be totally different. So that's why I refrain from using any numbers. The most important bit is to pre-drill the cabinet and then just put them in. I think the most important for me is that I do not so for the cabinet itself, for all of them I use the screwdriver to put the screws in more or less, and the final tightening went by hand. So it went by the feeling of hand, to first of all to make the screws flush so there's nothing sticking out, and then they don't over tighten them so they rip the wood, but make them nice and solid, and to have the feeling like the same tightness for all of them, more or less the best I can do it. So that's my way of tightening it. And And I think for a home user there's really not much possibility of doing anything better, given the density variation of the wood itself. And so I think that's about the screws, and depending on the material, brass or bronze, what's the grade of the brass, grade of the bronze, it will be just a variability in taste, and it will be just so minor difference between them that that it's really up to you. You will probably like both of them, but if you listen to the exact same speakers with one set or the other, they will sound a little bit different, have a little bit different personality, but not big enough that it's a make or break deal. And also, like gluing versus screwing, that's also like different in taste. It's not a make or break, deal breaker type of situation. Choose whichever you want, you won't go wrong with either of them. The only one you can go a little bit wrong is when you use iron screws, which are hard, and it's not just that they are magnetic, which is important when you have a metal iron basket for your driver, because then it will be pretty much affected. The high frequencies will be affected really much by those screws, and you will hear it in the sound. And change those iron screws to something else and you will notice a difference, that peaky resonance that those iron screws are creating. I would say probably maybe like 20% is contributed by the magnetism. Is actually, if you have screws which are really close to your driver, those will big time affect the driver basket and the magnet through the magnetic interference of the low level signals. So you will have a low level signal smeared by those screws. But if you have iron screws really far away from the driver, magnetically they will have very little impact. However, resonance wise, when you have an active cabinet, they will have a big impact. And I had comments that I don't believe that screws can be causing like a 10 dB extra peak, and the reason for that is that they can cause that, but in active live cabinets. So that's why they are doing so much difference, because these cabinets are active and are transmitting tremendous amount of energy to the air. And when you have an iron screw in there, that energy is going to get shifted to the resonant frequency range of the iron screw, and it will define that resonant frequency where your cabinet will continue to resonate. So they affect each other. So that's like a tuning fork put into the wooden baffle, and it will allow that wooden baffle to resonate at that peak where it itself resonates. So that's why it changes that resonance spectrum, and that can add that really narrow peak, and it adds that narrow peak by sucking out the energy from around it. So it's not adding more energy to what's coming out from the driver, is just shifting the energy spectrum into funneling it to a really narrow band. And yeah, so I think that's about the screws. And about the cabinet construction, so all of these are smaller details, and I say doesn't matter which path you pick, you will be really happy. The only thing I would say, avoid iron screws, use anything but these little buggers, and even if you use them, you will just have that 10 kilohertz peak, resonance peak that they introduce to the sound, which will be sometimes noticeable, because you will hear that it triggered. When it gets triggered, it's really nasty, but it happens maybe like 0.2% of music material. You can listen to like 5-10 songs and it never pops up. And then suddenly you listen to something like a female singer singing, and half of her voice is totally thrown off by the distortion. So that's what those iron screws will bring to the table for you. And about the how you finish it, whether you leave it unfinished, if your climate allows it to leave it unfinished, then it will give you the greatest efficiency. So the liveliness will be most of the cabinets. They will contribute the most dB efficiency addition to the sound. They will be the most dynamic, and whatever you add from linseed oil or shellac or whatever you want, you will be cutting down the efficiency and adding a different character to the sound. So when you add something else, you will make it have a more and more profound character. You will push it to a certain direction. And if you are a cabinet maker or you have your favorite method of finishing wooden cabinets, I recommend to use it, but just know that you will be either a little bit or quite a bit reducing the dynamics and the big sound of these speakers. But it's totally up to you, and you might have to finish them anyway if your climate does not allow natural wood to thrive in your living room. And I myself, I love to leave them unfinished, but probably sooner or later I will be forced to apply most likely linseed oil on them for termite protection, because we have termites in Hawaii, and that's the thing that happens sooner or later. Like my good friend, he has his Edgar horns, and they are removing the termites from the Edgar horn cabinets the second time during the past 15 years. So that's something that I'll have to think about, especially now that I have more and more wooden speakers in my room. It's going to attract termites sooner or later. So that's something that I just have to live with it and take what it gives, the slightly decreased efficiency, but we'll see. So I'm not too sad about it. It's just one of the facts of life. And whatever you do, it's not like you are ruining something, not like you are breaking something. It's just adding a little bit more personality to your speakers. And I wish everyone an amazing adventure, a fun adventure, and the same goes for the stands. I haven't mentioned the stands. It's not a make or break thing. It's just figure it out. The best stand will depend on your room acoustics. You have to play around what is the optimal height that they want to sit in your cabinet. When I designed them, I did not design them to sit at a specific height. I did not design them to be on the wall. I didn't design them to be out of the wall. I designed them with the explicit purpose that you can play around, either put them really low, really close to the floor, or on high stands or short stands. You can push them on the rear wall, you can put them in the corner. Try out all sorts of combinations to see which one you prefer, which one you love, and then create the appropriate stand for it. I will share how my Vandersteen stands look like, and they are in a way that they do not cover the ports on the bottom, and they were not designed for the Lagrange. They are not optimized for them. They were designed for the early Vandersteens, and they just happen to suit the purpose, and I have them, so why not try them out? And they work beautifully. So I'm going to show more on them so that you can build something similar. Have an awesome day. Please like, subscribe, and have fun with the coffee. And if you want to share from your coffee, then you can send me a coffee through the internet. Have an awesome day. Bye bye.